Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, my number one fan, Mr. Rylan. Good afternoon to the Bendigo Tech Schools live streaming session. So this past couple of weeks, we've been focusing on introductions to bits of software and bits of hardware. Excuse me. And today we're going to go back to one that's been pretty popular, especially one that I like running at the tech school when we can run there, is laser cutting. So at the school we have, obviously we've got quite a bit of equipment there, and I do believe, I'm sure we can say that we've got another machine coming in soon, another laser cutter, a real big boy, which I'm looking forward to checking out. But yeah, so we use Trotec laser cutters. I'm just going to switch across here so you have something to see. I'm just on my Mac at the moment, so I thought wouldn't worry about the camera today, just focus on my voice and the screen. Yeah, so at the tech school we have a couple of Trotec laser cutters. Very, very big. I believe Mr. Wiggins likes to say they are the Rolls Royce of laser cutters, Rolls Royce or Ferrari, some expensive car of laser cutters. And they're very, very good. They're very fast. But most schools obviously don't have the luxury of having one of those. And I think the schools that I've been to around Bendigo, a lot of them have very similar laser cutters to my laser cutters. So we're talking the kind of the big, I guess a lot of people call them like Chinese laser cutters because that's where they come from. I mean, all the laser cutters pretty much come from China anyway, but they don't have like a really big, I guess, like a Trotec, like a big kind of American facing, brand company. They're just kind of made and manufactured there. They're very strong, solid machines, and that's what most schools have. They're pretty solid. They last a long time. You could probably do with a clean every now and then, but I know I've seen a few of them around. For instance, I've seen the one at BC, very similar to mine as well. And all those laser cutters are great, but what I find is the software is very lacking. So the software to run the machine, sometimes it's probably called RD Work, seems to be the most popular bit of software, which is free, which comes with a lot of those machines. Is not that great. It's very hard to use, and it's not very kind of user friendly. So what I'm going to show you, and the piece of software I recommend for all the schools that are using those kind of laser cutters, is this one here called LightBurn, and it is I'll just load it up, load it. Let me just boot it up. It probably makes more sense to see it, so I can talk about it. So LightBurn is, it can do two things. So it is software to run your laser cutter. It's the one that I use to run my laser cutter. But also you can use it to do design as well. So you can use it to actually create products here too. And I'll show you. We'll create something in here as well and see how we go. Personally, I would like to use Illustrator for all my, I'll just bring Illustrator up. I kind of use Illustrator for mostly all my design work. I mean, I'm just more familiar with Illustrator and it can probably do a little bit more. But you can do a lot of what Illustrator can do here in LightBurn as well. But of course, the benefit of LightBurn is it then plugs directly into your laser cutter and you can start cutting away. So let's have a look at that. So definitely recommend schools, if you are getting a laser cutter or if you're struggling with the one that you've got, software wise anyway, I would have a look at picking up LightBurn. So it is a paid for piece of software. You can get a really good trial. It's free for 30 days. And they also have some really good educational discounts as well. Now, I was chatting with them a while ago and they were going to help us out too. So if you are interested in getting some licenses, let me know and hopefully I can get a bunch of them and we can figure it out and figure out a great price for it. But yeah, so very, very cheap piece of software for what it does. Okay, I think it's like $100 and something odd dollars. So let's get cracking, okay? So now I'm not connected to my laser cutter. I'm not doing a live session from my garage like I did a few weeks ago. But I'll run you through how this works. So here is obviously where your laser machine is set up, okay? So again, if you're plugging this into your machine at school, again, it all depends on what's called your controller, okay? So all laser cutters have these different kind of controls, kind of like a brain, I guess, of the laser cutter. And depending what your one is at school, will be if this is compatible with it. So double check that as well. If you want some help and you want to know what your laser cutter is and if it's compatible, feel free to take a photo of it and email it to the tech school and I'll be more than happy to kind of help you out and give you some recommendations on how to get it running. But once your laser cutter is connected, so just pretend like mine is connected here, it's as simple, it'll show up here, it'll detect the settings, and the first thing that we can see down here is your cutting. This is where you start and stop any of your cutting, all right? Then down here we have our start position. So here it tells you where you want the job to cut from. So if you've put your bit of material in your laser cutter and you've moved the laser head to say the top right over here, or you might have it down here if your material is a small piece of material and you've got it here, wherever you have that laser head, if you have start from current position, that's where it'll start cutting from. And that's what I use all the time. That way I always know that if I move my laser head to a certain point, it's going to start cutting from that point. So that's what I do there. So it doesn't matter where your material or even where your design is placed on this screen here, as long as it says from current position, and that's where it'll start from. Your job origin is where is the laser head going to be. So my laser cutter 00 is in the top right. Some might be, I know the Trotec at work is 00 is in the top left. So again, there are some things that you will need to know to get your laser cutter up and running. So if you're kind of new to the school and you've just found this old laser cutter there that somebody bought with some funding a couple of years ago and has never touched, it might be a little tricky to kind of get your head across things, but let me know. Again, I'm more than happy to kind of help you out with this. So that's what this is down here. Down here is our move control. Now I'm using it on my larger screen, so some of these icons are a little bit funny. It doesn't seem to like a big 4K to screen, unfortunately. But so this here is moving your laser head. So you can move it up and down, left and right, or go to the home position. So my laser cutter has a display and controls on the actual front, so I can control it through there, same as the tech school. But you can obviously control it through here as well. And you can also control how fast it moves. And then your Z-axis, so your up and down. So some cutters will have a manual kind of bed that you have to kind of twist with a crank to get it up and down. Some will have a motor to move it up and down. So again, the tech school is a motor. And you can save a bunch of positions too. So if there's a position that you always go on to, like a certain depth and a certain height and a certain position in the corner, you can save those there down there. All right, your file list, we're not going to worry about that. That's if I've got a bunch of files that I'm constantly cutting and accessing. I can kind of keep them in here instead of having to open them all the time. It's kind of like a quick, I guess, a quick selection. Camera control, I haven't got a camera set up, but camera control is super handy when it works. I did order a camera, but unfortunately it never arrived, so we might try and do that again. So the camera allows you to set up a camera on the inside of your laser cutter, like on top of under the lid, and then with some calculations and some fiddling around, you can actually get the display of the bed of your laser cutter sitting in here through that camera, and then you can see exactly what's there. So you can place your designs and your cuts exactly over where the material might be sitting, which is really cool and super handy if you don't want to waste, you don't want to waste offcuts, or if you've got really random bits of wood, you can just place them on the bed and see where the camera is, and then you can actually place the items directly over that wood, which is really cool. So once I get a camera, I'll try and order another one. I might show you how that works, because I think that's a really handy one, especially for schools where you really want to save all of your offcuts, because it's expensive. So you can save that there as well. And then down here we have our shape properties, which only appear obviously if we do a shape. So that is your main setup here. If we do go into our preferences, which are in edit, we have a few settings here. You have your device settings. So this is where it'll tell you your speed of your device, the working size of your device, those kind of things. I haven't got my device connected at the moment, so I can't really see that. And then we'll go into, I'll close that down. Over here, machine settings. All right, and again, we can't really see that unless it's connected to the controller, but that'll kind of tell you what you've got in terms of setting the thing up. And then finally, we've got we'll go back into, I just want to go into my options. In preferences up here. This is the preferences for the actual piece of software itself. So this is your file setting. So this is where you can set up, your formats. How you're going to import stuff. So you can import direct from Illustrator, obviously. Auto save, if that's going to work. Every couple of minutes it's going to save for you as well. So you've got all that kind of there. And then you have display here. This is what you see on the screen. So you can change the icons, you can change what you see, you can make it faster or slower in terms of the rendering so it'll look really clean, and you can change kind of how fast shifting those arrows will move things around. So that's pretty easy. All right. So let me just jump across and make sure. So here it is here. This is LightBurn here. So jump here to download it and try it out. I'm just going to make sure everything's going all right. Yep, cool. Stream's going well. So jump here and download it if you want to and try it out. You can obviously use it without having a laser cutter connected. You just can't cut anything. So feel free to give it a go. All right, so let's head back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show us a couple of things. First, I'm going to make something in Illustrator and import it and show you how you set it up for cutting. And then I'm going to try and recreate that same thing in LightBurn to see how easy that is to do. So you can kind of see, maybe you can get rid of Illustrator altogether and just use this one piece of software. Especially good for students if they're doing less detailed work. So let's say your students are building, boxes or cases or buildings or bridges or very geometric shapes. This would be perfect for them to use it just in here, as opposed to them having to understand Illustrator as well, because they can do most of that here. But I'm going to jump into Illustrator. All right, I'll just go into File, New, and Create. Okay, so I'm just going to make something pretty simple. I'll make a bit of a geometric shape. So what I might do is I'm just going to get an ellipse. I'll just go back to the panda I keep making all the time. I might just make a little panda keyring, right? So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. If you've done any of my Illustrator live streams, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here in terms of offsetting paths. So I now have that expanded shape. I'm going to now also go back to my ellipse here. I'm going to make the eye, so I'll do one ellipse. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to edit, paste that in place, hold Alt, and just shrink it down. Oops, I'm on my Mac, I keep forgetting hold Alt and shrink that down. Excellent. I'm then just going to merge these two together. That's one shape, wonderful. And then I'm going to go in here and delete that path and delete that path. And then I'm going to select these two control points and do Command J to join those. And I'm going to do Command J to join those. All right, now I have my smiley eye. I'll scale that down a touch. And then I'll just do an oops. Whenever I switch from Mac to my from Windows to Mac, I always mentally blow everything up. All right, so we've got my eyes there. Okay, I'm just going to change the fill of that. I don't need that to have a fill color. Wonderful. Let's give it a nose there, and we'll kind of like I might just stretch those out a little bit. Stretch that handle out there, and I'll stretch that handle out there. Maybe I'll make a koala. This looking koala-y. All right, we'll put that there. All right, let's do its ears. All right, I'm gonna move that one over here. I'll move that there, and I'm just going to offset that one, but I'll do a -20. Cool beans. All right, so now, did I just say cool beans? Now I've got, oops. Now I've got that ear. That'll probably do. I'll give him a smiley face. Why not? You know, let's just we'll grab this and we'll just kind of bring this and I'll just rotate it around. I'll move that over there and I'll scale that a little bit funny like that. And then I'm just talking to myself really. I'm going to transform that and I'm just going to reflect it. Yes. There we go. All right, and now I'm going to select these three. Oops, wrong keys again. Select these three here, and I'm going to do that. Oh, I just got a little buzzy buzz from Mr. Roland. Just make sure everything's going okay. Where has the... Oh, is it not there, Mr. Roland? No YouTube chat. Maybe because it's private, I wonder. That's a good... Maybe that's why chat has been so quiet, because chat's not there. I'll check it out. I'm not sure why that wouldn't be there. I'll just kind of group these together. Maybe I've been banned from having chat. Maybe they've decided my jokes are just too much. All right, so I'm going to merge all those together. So now I kind of have that face there. I'm going to select these two and group them together. And then I'm going to select all these elements and align them so they're in the center. All right, and then finally, let's get this little ear. It's back. Wonderful. I've been reinstated. And then I'm just going to move this ear over here. I'm showing my screen then, so everyone would have seen Mr. Roland's lovely face just pop up in the top right-hand corner. He's an icon of Bendigo. If you've ever been to Bendigo, you'll see Mr. Roland around the place. People wear him on their shirt. He's a hero. He's a hero of Bendigo. I believe he's in the centre of town. It's a giant statue of him. I can't believe they made that statue, but you know, he's a nice guy. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to merge all these together. And then I'm going to be done with it. All right, that'll do. Cool. So there is my koala. It's an amazing koala. All right, so I'm just going to save that. I'm going to save it as... I'm going to save it as YouTube, so I know what it is when I want to open it later. And cool. I'm just saving the Illustrator file. All right, so now I'm going to jump into LightBurn. So again, depending on what machine you're working on, so I know at the tech school, I can basically go file print straight out of Illustrator into our laser cutter and it'll cut from there. But again, as much as I love our laser cutter, I find that the software is very, and the software is called Job Control, I believe. I just find the software very clunky and it has very little control, which is probably a good thing, right? Like it's trying to be more, I guess, easier to use for the user, but I find it's not great to control. So I'm going to jump into LightBurn and I'm going to import that koala. So I'm just importing the I'm importing the Illustrator file, which I called YouTube. All right, so here it is here. And you can see it's imported and it's got a couple of things in here. I'm just going to switch that to line so you can see what's going on. I'm just going to, every now and then you'll get some remnants that we don't want. So I'm just going to put that on. Okay, so here is my shape here. So if we jump back into Illustrator, you can see it's basically the same thing. All right, so now when we're in LightBurn, now we can basically say, well, how this is going to cut. So by default, like you saw, it brings it in. You've got a few options. So we've got a line and a fill plus line. So let me explain what they are. So, hey buddy, we're doing laser cutting today.
I really want to laser cut that.
I'm showing people how to make the koala and then we'll laser cut it. Yeah, sure. Raf's just going to jump in. Can you sit up there? We'll be able to see. Oh goodness, you're so heavy. Raf's turned 6 now, so Raf's super heavy, aren't you, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, you're okay there?
Yes, easy to see.
Excellent. I haven't got the camera on today, bud, so we can just look. All right, so I'm just telling people how. Now, you've done laser cutting, haven't you, Raf?
Yes.
Raf is a good laser cutter. He knows what he's doing. He knows, what do you know with laser cutting? You know cut lines? Yeah, and you know engraving. He's done all that kind of stuff. He's very good at it. So, let's have a look. So by default, you have a few options here. So I'm just going to shut the door. Oh, Winston. Oh, everyone's come in to say hello. Oh, I'm just going to shut the door because I just find it's less echoey. Okay. So by default, it's come in and we've got the mode here is line, which is this is coming up as a line because it's that color. I can change the color. So I'm just going to select these two eyes here. I'm going to make them blue. Okay. So now whatever is black is going to be a line. So that means it's going to be a cut line. So the laser is going to follow that line and cut out that shape. So it's going to cut that shape out and cut that shape out and that shape there. Okay, that's the line. Now I can change those to whatever I want. If I change it to a fill, it will now engrave in there as well. Okay, so it's not going to cut it. It's going to engrave all of that. Now I don't want that. I want it to be a line. I want it to be cut out. So the colors don't matter because you choose the colors here and then you set the mode here. So it doesn't really matter what color is what in Illustrator. You go back and change it. So I've changed.
Make the eyes opened.
Sorry, darling?
Make the eyes opened.
Oh yeah, this is like this, like smiling, like hi, hello.
No, make the eyes open.
Okay, well, we'll do one open eye in a second. So now that I've got these blue here, they're going to engrave that, okay, because that's the color I chose. So you can start to break everything down. I'm going to go into this one here. I'm going to make it red, which is a cut line, but I'm going to change that to a fill as well. And then these two circles here, I'm going to select those, and I'm going to make a different color again. Okay, so now we can start to see. Well, I'm just changing the settings, Raf, for the colours and what cuts. You know how we can change different cuts and different engraves?
Yes.
So I'm just going to, I'll turn off, I'm going to do not disturb. There we go, go away. Okay, so now that we've done that, all right, now we can start to set what does what. So you can cut and you can engrave, but you then also need to say how you're going to do that. So let's have a look first at this black line. So this is the outline of my entire bit of material. I want to cut that out. So you can see down here, you've got some options for the speed and the power, okay, max and min. So how this works is the speed is how fast the laser head travels and the power is how much percentage of power of your laser are you using. And that's all going to depend on your laser. So most lasers are about 100 watt lasers. So at 60%, you know, it's using, well, 60% of that power that you've got available to you. So what you need to figure out, and you have to do this through, you know, a bit of trial and error and testing of your material, is you need to figure out what speed and what power you need to cut through a certain material. So if you're cutting through, say...
Choose a different colour.
Sure, which colour, darling?
Pink.
Pink. All right, we'll do pink in a sec. So if you were cutting through, say, 3mm laser... Plywood, thank you, Rafferty. 3mm plywood, okay, with a 100 watt laser, you need to figure out what your machine can do. So I know with my machine, and I know what the tech school machine can do, because I've tested a bunch out. So I've done... Yes, Dad? Yeah?
Have you finished? Could you transform your car into Bumblebee?
Okay, so I know what kind of speed and power I need to cut through that certain material. Do you want to hop down? Or are you staying up?
No, I'm getting all
Okay, to cut through that material, okay? Because I've...
that whole thing.
Yeah, because I've tested that out and I've done it a few times and I knew exactly what I needed. So you really need to go through that process with testing everything out with the material you're using.
Why did the volume just...
I just knocked it, it's okay. With the material that you're using, okay? So, for instance, let's do 3mm. Rappy, a bit serious, okay? So if we're doing 3mm, I know, for instance, on my machine and the textile machine, for 3mm, I need to run that at about 65 millimeters a second. I don't want it to go any faster than that. And the power, I can cut through, actually no, I got the wrong way around. It's 35 millisecond and the power is 65%. So your min power and your max power is important. The minimum power here is what basically what it's saying is it'll slow down as it goes around a corner. It'll lower the power down a little bit, so you don't get those.
It just came up again.
Yeah, so you don't get burn marks. But I'll generally just keep it up to the same there. So now I know at that speed and that power that will cut through 3mm material. Okay, but if I put a piece of 6mm in there or 7mm, I'd need to make sure I change these. It would have to probably be, I could either increase the power quite a lot if I wanted to do that, or I could slow the speed down. Okay, and so you've got to figure out that balance between how fast you want it to cut and how much power you want it to use. So if you use more power, all right, you could make it cut faster, so your work is done quicker, but you're using more power. You're also, doing more wear and tear on your laser as well, that laser tube, because that does need to get replaced. So personally, I would rather go a little bit slower, but have my laser last me a lot longer. I think I'll get a lot more done that way. So that's why I have it at 65% power and 35% speed. So I probably could bump that speed up, but I'd have to drop the power down. So you need to go through every piece of the material that you want to cut and test it out. It's pretty simple to do. What I would do is I would just make a little array, and I'll show you how to do that. So
what's an array?
An array. I'm going to show you, right? So I've got a little square there. I'm going to hit this array tool over here, and I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then okay.
And that's 9.
Yeah, yes! Raph, he knows his maths. Okay, and so now I've got these squares.
I'm at school.
You are at school, Raph. So now I've got these squares here. What I would go and do is I would change the colours of all of these. Let's go 9, I would change all of these to different...
Can one be pink, please?
One
can
can
be 7?
All right, I'll do pink. There we go. So I'll change all of these to different colours, and then I'd change all the power settings.
I want all of them to be pink, my favourite colour.
We'll do it soon. So then I'd change all these power settings here. So this would be like, a certain combination, yes, darling?
One just going to stay green.
Yeah. This would be a certain combination of speed and power. This would be a certain combination, this, and so on and so forth. And then just cut that. And then the machine will automatically change the power and the speed for each of those. And then whatever kind of falls out, you can check out and see if that worked. So I'm making a quick array.
What does it mean moving?
So yeah, that'll move whenever I move the mouse because that's moving the position. So that's a quick way to figure out what power that you need, essentially. So yeah, anyway, so back to what we're doing. So once you know that, you just set it here. So I've got 35 speed, 65 power.
That looks like a panda.
A panda? Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was going for. And now you can see it's going to cut that shape out. And then these two here, I've got at engraving. Okay, I'm just going to delete all of these because I don't need them and it's probably just getting in the way. I've got at engraving. So the speed, that's just the corner wrap of the project. So the speed and power of your engraving. So engraving, you can have a go. You can make it go a lot faster, and obviously the power, like how deep an engrave do you want. And then here, I've got another fill of a very slow speed and a very high power. If I did that, it would just kind of basically incinerate that entire piece there. So let's change that to say 500, and that the 500 is going to be the max speed of your machine again as well. So you need to know how fast your machine can go essentially. So you can see here I've got two different engraving powers, which means this is going to be a darker engrave than this here. So it should be darker. It's going to go through less of the material. So you can again have a whole bunch of different engrave powers and speeds, and really start to make you can almost make like an image.
The eyes again, like they're like the
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's how we did it. So that's how you go through those settings there. And then finally, I've got a line here as well, but I've got a fast line and a low power, which means it's going to try and cut that material. But because I made the power so slow, yeah.
Can I play with your Lego?
Yeah, sure. Because I've made the power so slow, so I'm just moving some Lego.
For me.
There you go, buddy. Because I've made the power very slow here and the speed very fast on this cut, it's not going to cut through the material, but it's going to make a nice line around there as well. So that's... Rafi, we have to do silent Lego. So that's what you can do there. And of course, your order is very important as well. If I've got that cut line at the very top, it's going to do that first, and then that material might drop out, and so everything's going to kind of be out of line. So let's make sure we put that cut line at the bottom there. Okay, so now once you've done that, there are a few more options as well. So if we double click any of these, so we talked about our speed and our power, that's really important, okay? Your air assist mode, that depends on your laser cutter. My laser cutter has a compressor connected to the laser head, which is blasting air out, which means it's going to blow away any smoke, which is great. Then you have some things down here, like the start and the pause time, okay? So when it cuts, what time does it have before it starts and stuff. Then down here as well, oh, I got a message just to make sure Mr. Paul, does the Illustrator file make it vector format? Yeah. So if you save it as Illustrator, it is vector, okay? But if you have in your vector file, if you also have images and stuff in there, it's not going to pick that up in LightBurn. So anything that you save in Illustrator, if they're vectors in Illustrator, it'll bring them up and it'll import those vectors as well. Cool. So then down here, we've got our Z offset and our number of passes. This might be important if you've got... Yes, sir? Oh, yeah. This might be important if you have a very low-powered laser machine, like a K40, you know, maybe a 20-watt or 30-watt or 40-watt laser cutter that hasn't got a great deal of power, then it might not be able to cut through the material you're using. So you can make, you know, 2 or 3 passes. So it'll cut, and it'll cut again, and it'll cut again until it gets through that material. So that's helpful if you've got a very low-powered laser cutter. And then this Z step per pass, what that will do is when it does a cut, it can either go up or down. So it can move the bed up and down to make sure that laser's still aligned as well. So that's really for if you've got very low powered kind of hobby laser cutters. Again, most schools that I've seen, they won't need to do that. You've got pretty much 100-watt laser cutters, so you'll be okay. So that's the settings there. Now in engraving, we have different settings. So down here, we have our fill. So, do you want to go back into the lounge room? No. You'll lie down on the floor.
No, I want to lie down up here so clear all of this.
Well, you can't really clear all of this stuff. You can't lie down up here. Rafi's decided that he wants to lie down.
On the bench.
On the bench, yeah. So OH&S here at Bendigo Tech School's Remote Learning Centre, also known as my office. All right, is that better, bud? Just be careful. I'm gonna head back. All right. Oh dear, everything's falling apart. Just move your legs. All right, that's lying down. Okay, so with engraving, it's a little bit different. So we can see our bidirectional fill.
My feet not comfy.
Well, I can't do anything about that. So you can see which way the head's going to travel. So it's going to go this way.
Oh, wait.
Then it's going to go kind of, so back, you know, this way, up, this way, up, this way, up. You can see which way it's going to engrave. We can turn that off so it kind of goes like this. And then goes forward, back. So it's going this way. Kind of going back on an angle this way, back on an angle this way, back on an angle. All right, so it all depends on how fast you want it to cut. Obviously, there's less travel when you do bidirectional. Crosshatch, we'll do that left and right and up and down, depending on what you want to do if you really want to make it detailed. Down here, we have the line interval. So by default, that will probably be on, well, if I'll put default on, I'll just go reset default. Oops, and we'll go back to, oh yes, by default, it went back to a fill. So let's go back to, okay, we'll cancel that. Go away. So down here is the lines per inch, okay, or the line interval. So this is saying if I move that up, this is talking about the space between the engraved lines. As it comes across, how far is it traveling before it does another engraved line? So if you want a very detailed, really detailed engraved, if I bring that down, okay, oops, I did it the wrong way. If I bring that interval lower, okay, you're going, so if I make it 0 basically, you're going to have these lines a lot closer together, okay, but it means there's going to be a lot more lines, so the engraving is going to take a lot longer because it's got more space to fill. The further these lines are apart, the faster your engraving will be. Now, got to remember that engraving is about 5 or 6 times slower than cutting, you know, sometimes even more, because it's going to travel across the whole material. So
that's a rocket ship.
That's just the Mac, mate. So yeah, so again, something to play with your engrave. How detailed can you get it? How far apart can you get these lines and still have a piece of material that you like or a job that you like? So try that out, because again, the further these are away, the faster it's going to take to make, but it won't be as detailed. So that's what that is. Then obviously we have number of passes as well if you wanted to go back through and do another pass. Excuse me. And that's it. Okay. Let's cancel that. So that's pretty much it. I could hit start on this if I was connected to my laser cutter, and away I would go. It would do the blue engrave first. It would then do the red engrave. It would then do these green lines here. And then finally, it would do the final pass, and it would cut this piece of material, and that would fall out. And that is done. So that's kind of how that works. So once you bring your Illustrator file in, you then say exactly how you want it to work, what you want it to cut. You can also turn these off, which is handy. So I can turn off, let's just say I didn't cut through, or I wanted to cut again, but I didn't want to do the engraves again. You can turn off certain layers as well, so they don't, if I hit start now, layers 2 and 3 wouldn't work, so they wouldn't engrave and they wouldn't cut. So again, it's just a stack more control in this than I find in any other laser cutting software. Okay, so that's kind of how it works, and that is pretty much it. Now you can also do some editing in here too. If I go down here, into my node edits, you can see that even though I made this in Illustrator, I still can make some changes, just like I can in any vector-based... He's got a bump on his head. Just like in any vector-based program, I can go in and I can change these nodes. I'm just going to use my keys here. I can delete a node if I want to. Okay, I can play around with that. So you do have some control you're funny, over the vectors as well there. You can also, you have your align tools in here as well, so you can do a lot of that kind of stuff. And you also have, you can put a radius on these. So you do have control after the fact. You don't have to go back into Illustrator all the time, make changes and keep importing them. Once your file's in here, you can actually make some changes here as well, if you want to. I'm loving these messages, these live messages, Mr. Rollins. What do we got? Will this software... Yeah, so Mr. Rollins, I've checked when I was at BSE, ages ago now, your laser cutter was basically the same as mine. So I'm pretty sure it's a Reruda controller. So the only way to check is you can do two things. You can open the side panel and you'll kind of see there's the board on the side and it will tell you what it is, what kind of controller it's got. Or you can, because the software is a free trial, you can download it, you can turn it on and it will tell you if it can work to your laser or not, because it'll appear, once you plug it in, it'll say I'm connected to this laser cutter and it will tell you exactly what laser cutter it is. You probably shouldn't need to do any firmware updates or anything like that. But yeah, I reckon your machine will work fine on this, but definitely download the trial, install it, plug it in via USB to whatever computer you're using, and then it will do that. It'll automatically try and detect your laser cutter, and if it's compatible, you'll be right to go. And I'm probably 90% certain that you will be compatible from the one when I saw it that brief time we were at BSE. This will be fine for you, Mr. Rollins. But like I said, I'll come out when I can, and we can have a look at it, and we can optimize it and clean it and get it back up to speed.
You have to give me a lighter.
A lighter?
Lighter.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Oh, the ladder. Oh, sorry, Lego.
I said.
I thought you said lighter. I'm like, oh, you want a lighter? I'm like, what do you want a lighter for? Yeah, so that's the other thing, obviously, we can talk about later, is cleaning your laser cutters. So another thing is, this is just to control the laser cutter for your projects, but we haven't even talked about the actual physical machine itself. I might do that in another video, where your laser cutter is a consumable. You do need to work on it. You need to align the mirrors. You need to clean the mirrors. You need to clean the laser. You need to clean the lens. There's a lot of work to get a laser cutter constantly running really, really well. If your lasers aren't aligned, if they're out by like a tiny mil, your power goes from 100 watts down to 50 watts. So there's a whole bunch of other hardware related stuff, and I might do that in another video later. But like I said, I'll come to your school, Mr. Ryan, and we'll give you also a good service. All right. So yeah, so you can do some control to the Illustrator file once it's in here. But let me show you. I'm just going to undo Command Z. All right. So we'll bring him back to where we were. So let me show you what you can do in here without needing Illustrator. So what I'm going to try and do is recreate this. I'm going to move this out of the way. Let me try and recreate.
Get rid of the whole thing.
No, I'm going to put him over here. And what I'm going to try and do is recreate him, but only in LightBurn. So I'm not going to use Illustrator. So let's see if I can make the same thing just in LightBurn without needing Illustrator at all, just to see kind of how you can do that. So which you can. LightBurn is this software. It's called. This is what controls the laser cutter that we use. This is the software. So this is like the software that tells it what to do.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
All the numbers.
They're all the different layers and colors. Okay, so let's try and recreate this. So let me show you how you would do that in LightBurn. It is pretty similar. Yeah, if it hasn't been serviced, I would probably not. I would be done.
So Sashing is 29 mil.
Like plywood.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit of an odd number. I'm sure there's 30 mil. Yeah, so if your laser cutter has been serviced, Mr. Roland, I would be very careful using it, because it's probably, even just moving it around the place, and I'm sure it's been moved around a lot, it's going to be knocked all over the place. So you can definitely connect your software to it and start having a go, controlling it and moving it, but I think we should give it a good service. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. So let's recreate this in LightBurn, just to see how easy it is to do. So let's just do what we did before. We make a circle there, and you can see here, it's a line, which is fine. And then we're going to do, what should we do, Rash? Should we do?
I can barely see the line.
We'll make it black so we can see it. Okay, so let's do that. Now we'll do the eyes like we did before. So I'm going to draw another circle. I'm going to do the, this has an offset. Well, I'm going to do the eyes. This has offset as well, so there it is there. And I'm just going to make that offset shape. Okay. Alrighty, and then we can do what we did before. The only thing I don't like about this is it doesn't automatically go back to the selection tool after you do something, which always does my head in. Alright, so then we will just kind of combine those. So now that's one shape. Now we'll go into the node edit here. So we go down here. Now, what I found with LightBurn, there we go, is you need to have these...
At the ear.
Sorry?
At the ear.
Yeah, you need to have these ungrouped for the node editing to work. I find it can be a bit fiddly. All right, so you can see here, the nodes are in a different spot than they would be, say, in Illustrator. They're kind of like, they're all over the shop, actually. So what I would do to recreate that shape is probably a little bit more...
Going to the brain.
All right, do you need some help?
Get me down.
Yes, I can.
I'll come back up after.
All right, so we'll just kind of recreate this shape here. No worries, buddy. And I'm going to move this over here. I'll scale that up. So look, it's definitely harder, I find, to make stuff in here. It's not what it's designed for. It's designed, so LightBurn's designed to control your laser cutter, Command C, V, and also to, you know, make changes to existing docs. But I don't think they've ever said that they're there to replace, you know, something like Illustrator, because I don't think it will. It is, like I said, it's good, but it's not that good. All right, so I'm going to merge those together. But, you know, actually, no, I'll take that back. It's good and it's good. And we'll merge that there. All right, so there's our ears. Now, I'm doing this pretty fast now, obviously. But let's do the nose. All right, we have that there. I'm going to go into my node edit mode. Select that. All right. Now, if you find you can't select that and there's no nodes, oops, great. There's no nodes in that shape, you actually need to right-click the shape. Okay, and then do convert to path. And now it'll have those nodes there. There we go. So you're back. All right, so I'm going to...
I'm back.
Oh, you want to come back up again?
I'm back.
All right, Raf's back, everybody. Raf's back. Hi, Raf. All right. Oh, you're so heavy. Okay. Okay. So there's our node editing there. So you can... Yeah.
You've already gotten good on that, then that.
Yeah, it's similar. Okay. Cool.
It's a touchscreen.
It's not a touchscreen, darling boy. All right, so let's do that little upside down thing I did for the eyes. So I'm just going to offset that.
Like a bigger.
Select both of these. Punch them through. Convert to a path. Then I've got my nodes.
Nodes?
Nodes? And
These
I can...
nodes.
Nodes. I can delete
These
these.
are nodes.
What do you mean?
Nodes.
Nodes.
I said nodes.
Ah, okay.
Not nodes.
And then we can join these lines together. Now, is it
Does nose has a Z at the end? Nodes.
Now, I always forget, so this has shortcut keys for the node editing, but I'm just going to use the pen tool and just kind of create that. Yes, buddy? What are you looking at? That's mine.
It's going to be mine.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, and then I'm going to go, and this is what I like about this, is once you grab these nodes, okay, you'll notice that if you attach it like that, it automatically snaps it together and joins it, and it makes it part of that shape, which I think is very handy. All right.
Bye-bye.
So now we have that.
Bye-bye.
See you, bud. Do you want a hand getting down?
Yes.
Why are you so heavy? All right, I'll be done in a minute, buddy. Okay. Ooh, so your arm crack. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit these nodes really quick. Alrighty. And then we'll just rotate that around. We'll move this over here. Scale that. All right, so again, I'm doing a pretty, pretty quick and rough job, but you know, like I said, it does do the job. I think my biggest problem with it is because I'm so used to Illustrator, like that I've used it for 20 years. I find it hard to do stuff in here because I'm so used to how it works in Illustrator. So if you or your students have never used Illustrator before, and you know, some of you probably haven't, then this would be fine for you to start in, and you might find that you like this a lot better. All right, so I'm just going to reflect that. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it looks a bit different. Obviously I did it a lot faster though, so that's okay. Anyway, so you can see we can recreate our elements here in LightBurn as well, so you don't need to use Illustrator. And then of course I can do what I've done before here. I'm going to select this, and merge it, and then select this.
I am.
You're back, and merge it together. There you go. And then I can go and I can choose those same layer colors. So I'll select those two, make them green. I'll select these two.
Get up.
Sorry, don't?
Can I get up?
Yeah, I'm nearly done actually. We'll probably finish in a minute, buddy. I'm going to select the nose and make it red. And I'll select these two.
I'm making that in LightBurn.
Yeah. And make it blue. Okay, so there we go. So that's kind of basically recreating that.
That is the exact same thing.
It does. Well, thank you, Raph. It looks similar. So that's recreating that.
It's exactly the same.
Thank you, my boy. That's recreating that, obviously, in LightBurn. So there you go. And of course, you do have other options here. You have your text options too. So if you want to do text, you can drop your text in.
What's yours?
Sorry, don't?
What's yours?
That's my text. So when you
What
put your,
is it? What's it spelled?
it says hello, Paul. So when you put your text in, you can obviously have all your text options down here. This little blue thing allows you to do this really simple bend. It's like, and there's some things in here that I just like that are like, this is really hard to do in Illustrator, just do a real simple kind of bend, but you can do it here really quickly. Anyway, so you can kind of bend your text around as well. And you obviously got your note edits down there.
In a circle.
Sorry, Dane?
You text in a circle.
All the way.
Yeah.
No, I don't do too much. And then we'll go back to my
All the
selection.
way, all the
And we'll
way.
move that over there. Okay, cool. So yeah, you got your text selection down there. And then these other things up here, you've got your align tools. So you know how much I love my align tools. So you've got those as well. So we can do our aligning. So if I select those two shapes there, I can align them to the center. I can align them to the left. You can start to do that as well. So all those Illustrator options are there as well. And that is it. Now if I just hit start on this, obviously it would go and it would do... Oh, another message coming in. What do we got? What do we got? Thank you. Oh, there's a message from Mr. Roland that said, I'm loving the Raph commentary. But you're famous, mate. You're a YouTube sensation. You're going to be the next YouTube star. He's left. He's gone. He's had enough of us. So yeah, so now you can, obviously, if I hit start on this, it will run our project. Now, the other thing finally to think about before we start running our project is our material. So this is just a default kind of size here. Your material size, so the size that you're using in your laser cutter is going to depend on your laser cutter for one. How big is it? So I think the Tech Schools one is 400 by, I think it's 500 by 700, like the entire bed size. And then your material is going to be probably smaller than that again. So you place your material in there, and then obviously this needs to be to the right size. So you can go in here and you can see your dimensions up here. You can see how big it is. One thing that might be handy to do would be to like do another box, and we'll make that say orange, okay? And
Oh, box of the orange.
it is, and would make this the width of the material. I use 600 by 400, don't we, Raph? Raph knows because he's always with me when I'm cutting it. 600 by 400 is the material I use. So what I would do is I would have that sitting in here. You can lock a layer.
The orange, the box.
Oh, not just yet. You can lock a layer. So if you go into shape properties, I'm just going to lock that layer. So now I can't really do anything with it. I can select it, but I can't delete it or anything. So now I know where this is going to be. So if I select all of that, and I can kind of move it up there. I know that if that's my material, I'm going to know where exactly these are going to sit on that material. And away you go, you can cut away. Now you do have some optimization settings that do a lot of work here for you. So obviously cutting the inner shapes first are important if we had inner shapes like the inside of the P there. See you, buddy. We'll cut those out first. We can change to sorry, Dave? Hello. We can change a bunch of this kind of stuff here. So that's all in the optimization settings. So a lot of this depends on your laser cutter and what it can do. But that is it. That's all you need to know. And away you go. You can cut. So that is LightBurn. So what I suggest you do is, like I said, download the software, give it a go. You've got 30 days. It's a very generous long trial. You've got 30 days to try it out. You have multiple machines. You can try it on multiple machines. And see how you go. Plug it into your laser cutter and see if it comes up as a compatible laser cutter. It's got a list of compatible laser cutters. There is two types of this software. One's called the DSP software. That's the one I use. That's if your laser cutter has a little display screen on it itself. And Mr. Rollins, I think yours does. I can't remember, but a little display screen. So that's the piece of software you use. And again, if you use the wrong one, it'll tell you. So download it, try it out, and I reckon make a couple of designs in LightBurn. And then what I would do is use LightBurn to then figure out all of your material. Hold on, Raph loves whistling. I would do a whole bunch of little arrays and then start to kind of figure out speeds and power cuts and those kind of things to figure out how to cut through material. And that is it. So enjoy that. Like I said, it's super simple to control your laser cutters. If you do need any help with a laser cutter, so any of our schools that we come to, please just send the tech school a message, and I'd be more than happy to pop out there when I can, have a look at your laser cutter, recommend, what piece of software to use, how to use it, run some sessions maybe with your teachers on how to use it safely. But probably the main thing that I can do, which I think a lot of schools would probably really like, is I can run you through how to actually calibrate and set up and do maintenance on your laser cutter, which is important. Not like I'm not going to get you to use the laser and align that. I think obviously safety, you want to get someone to do that for you, but I could definitely show you how to do some everyday stuff to get it running really well. All right, so that's it for me. I'm going to end the streamio. Thank you so much for everybody's time, and I will catch you. I'll catch you tomorrow. So I'm just going to jump across here